All right, this is part 2 of the PowerPoint that we were working on yesterday. We are still going over the First Amendment rights, but this time we're going to be looking at some other specific things. We left off here at fighting words, and we are continuing on. We're now looking at something called symbolic speech. So symbolic speech is an expression by conduct as opposed to words. Examples are picketing, wearing certain symbols, etc. And constitutionality depends on the situation. So you're going to read through some of the following cases, and they're focusing on burning important symbols. So I want to see if you see a difference between the cases. Are both actions constitutional? And then we're going to talk about what your opinion could be about each. So we're going to look at Texas versus Johnson and the U.S. versus O'Brien. So Texas versus Johnson, this is about flag burning. Flag burning is a constitutional expression of symbolic speech. But just because speech is offensive, it does not automatically make it unconstitutional. So even though burning a flag might offend people, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not protected by the Constitution. But the U.S. versus O'Brien, draft card burning is not protected by the First Amendment because it interferes with a legitimate government power to draft an army. And the government's limitations are not for the purpose of squelching dissent. So draft card, during some wars, any male in the United States would literally receive a draft card, which means that if their birth date was called by the government, they would be put into the military and probably have to serve in a war. This is usually used during wartime. If people decided to burn their draft cards to protest the draft, this is something that actually got in the way of another constitutional right, which is the United States trying to pull together an army. So that was found to be unconstitutional. But both of them kind of talk about the same thing. They're just about different issues. Student speech. Landmark case is Tinker versus Des Moines. This is from a Supreme Court case. The students have reasonable free speech in school if they are not compromising the learning environment. So you had these two students down at the bottom. They decided to wear armbands on their arm protesting something, and they were sued. They got in trouble. And they ended up getting in trouble in school because it was sort of disrupting school. They sued their school and they won the court case because it said that they are allowed to have free speech, but if it starts to compromise the learning environment, that is when it becomes a problem and it's no longer protected by the Constitution. Free speech and current events. In a few falls ago, the NFL became the center of free speech because numerous players and teams decided to kneel during the national anthem as a form of protest. Many Americans were angry, including the president at the time, who was saying that this was disrespectful. Others, however, supported the players in peaceful protest. While the players are within their First Amendment rights, they are not protected from public criticism. Of course, that means people watching what happened and criticizing them. Many think that the NFL should have taken action to bench or fire the players. So now I want to know, what do you guys think about that particular issue? We're going to skip right through this, but what is important to know basically is that during this type of protest, even though it offended people, this is protected by the Constitution because this did not hurt anybody. It's a form of protest, and it didn't go against anything in the U.S. Constitution. So these particular players didn't do anything wrong, really, even if some of the public believe that what they did was not okay. All right, prior restraint. This is punishing speech written or spoken before it is uttered or published, and it's generally forbidden. A landmark precedent, this is the New York Times versus the United States, otherwise known as the Pentagon Papers case. The government cannot curb speech unless it is a true matter of national security, which was not true of this case. So if a newspaper decides to write about something horrible that is happening within the government to inform the people of what is going on in the United States, the U.S. government is not allowed to say, oh, you are not allowed to write about that, and they're not allowed to get rid of that article. They are allowed to write about it, and they should write about it. Student prior restraint. Student prior restraint, the same rules don't necessarily apply. So the Hazelwood versus Kuhlmeyer summary, we are going to be learning about that later, but this is basically the precedent. This is what happened as a result of the case. School administrators have the freedom to limit student speech or press as long as their actions are based on reasonable educational concerns. So schools are allowed to limit what is being written about in schools because it is a different environment. It is not about society or government. We are actually in a place where a job needs to get done and our focus is education. So sometimes freedom of the press or speech, student speech, does need to be curbed. General free press rules. While many states have passed shield laws, members of the press may still be forced to reveal sources in criminal investigations. The Federal Communications Commission can prohibit the use of indecent language on television. And the government generally has placed responsibility for content control on parents and individuals, but not on broadcasters. So in other words, if you don't want your children to watch something that's inappropriate, it is up to you as a parent to monitor. Do you agree with that idea, or do you think that sometimes a bigger power or a company should get involved to make sure that they're not putting out things that are really inappropriate for specific age groups? All right, freedom of assembly and petition. The First Amendment gives the right to peacefully assemble, which means to get together to protest or demonstrate. But you cannot provoke others to endanger life, property, or public order, violence, or even block a public street. The government role, they must be content neutral. So their job is to make sure that everyone is allowed to protest no matter what they are protesting. And they are allowed to do that legally. They are not allowed to take an opinion or prevent people from protesting because everyone has that right as long as it is. Sorry, I got cut off. What I was meant to say, as long as it is done peacefully, then people are allowed to protest. So now we've moved on to freedom of religion. And with freedom of religion, we are going to look specifically at schools. So 2 key religious freedom clauses. The Establishment Clause prohibits the government from establishing a national religion. This is basically the wall of separation between religion and government. And the Free Exercise Clause guarantees to each person the right to believe whatever religion he or she chooses. Then we have school prayer. So back in the old days, a long time ago, people would sometimes encourage students to pray in class, or especially in public schools. It depended on the school or the state, but that was pretty regular. In Engel versus Vitale in 1962, the public school-sponsored prayer was deemed unconstitutional, even if the prayer was voluntary. In Lee versus Weissman in 1992, it was unconstitutional for clergy to pray as part of a public school graduation. So you could not have a minister or a priest come to a graduation and pray with the students. And then in Wallace versus Jaffrey in 1985, it was unconstitutional to provide a 1-minute period of silence for voluntary prayer or meditation during the school day. Lastly, we have this Supreme Court case, which was Santa Fe School District versus Doe. And the precedent that was set was that prayer over a loudspeaker at a school-sponsored event is unconstitutional, even if it was given by a student. So especially in like Texas, it was often done at school sporting events, and somebody would get on the loudspeaker and pray before a game. All right, so this is the basics of a lot of stuff with the First Amendment. Like I said, we're going to be really focusing on the freedom of the press in this particular unit. But right now, we wanted to make sure that we covered the full First Amendment. All right, that's it.